All right, thank you again for coming today. We're going to talk about carbs. Hopefully I don't make you too hungry during the lunch hour. My name is Brenna MacDonald. I'm a graduate assistant with Health and Wellness. I'm working for my master's in biomechanics, about to complete my first year too. So I am a CSCS, which is Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist. That's kind of where my background's at. But I did venture outside of that a little bit just to learn a little bit more about the nutrition aspect. So today in our presentation, we're going to talk about the role of carbohydrates. How do they fit into our diet? What do they do when we ingest them? Kind of that whole background of the science behind carbs. Are there different types of carbs, and does it matter which ones I am consuming? What is a low or lower carb diet? And who might this type of diet benefit? We're also going to then think of examples of how to implement a lower carb diet into your diet. So first off, what is a carbohydrate? Carbs are consisted of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and they are very important to us. They're a huge important part of our fuel. Sorry, a little nervous. So they are a major source of fuel for us. Everybody views them as a total enemy. We see them as bad. Everything in the news, everything online is all anti-carb. Hopefully we can change that a little bit today. But they tend to get all of the blame for obesity and disease and unhealthy aspects of our culture. But that's not always the case. They are a vital source of our daily lives. So different carb categories, we have starches, fruits, dairy, and then there's kind of an other category as well. What are the carbs' role in our body? So as I just mentioned, they are fuel. They're a very important fuel source for us. Glucose is our primary fuel. It's our preferred fuel for our bodies. It's the first thing I'm going to burn when I need energy, and it helps with many, both immune system and nervous system functions. So first I process it and convert it to ATP. That's my preferred energy. If I take in more energy or more carbs than I need that I'm going to burn at that time, your body stores them as glycogen. When I need that again later and I'm fasting overnight, or if you go a long period without eating, you're then able to access that glycogen, that stored energy, to use it later. If I have more than that amount of glycogen I can store, that's then when we start to store it as fat, which again isn't necessarily bad. It's vital for life, and I can access that again later if I need energy. Carbs are also important for fat oxidation. So one thing that is really bad with the misconceptions that carbs get, you need carbs in order to be able to burn fat. So everybody that thinks I need to cut out carbs completely so that I can lose fat, this is a little bit of a misnomenclature, just because you cannot burn those carbs without the byproduct of breaking down carbs. That's how you burn fat. They kind of go hand in hand with that. So carbs are necessary for that process. If I don't have enough carbs in my body will start to make something called ketones. And as those build up, that can be bad and somewhat toxic for my body as well. So really, really important when you think about burning fat here. Number 3, carbs are important for GI function, help keep all of that healthy bacteria in your system running and alive. They keep you full. They have fiber as part of our carbs, which we'll talk about in a little bit too, all which helps your GI system function. And then finally, immune system as well. We talked about that healthy bacteria just a second ago. That's going to keep, the carbs will keep fueling those healthy bacteria that keep your immune system fueling and help you fight disease. Another one, I'm sorry, I keep going back and forth. Last time I'll do that. Carbs also make your food more flavorful. We can't forget that carbs are usually the tasty food that we reach for when we're hungry. And enjoying your food is a necessary part of your diet too. So very important part there. And one quote that I like from Dr. Neil Bernard said, like gasoline powers a car, glucose powers your body. So again, we're back to that energy point that we need. We need those carbs to run. Okay, not all carbs are created equal. So we have 2 main groups of carbs. We have our simple carbohydrates and our complex carbohydrates. Our simple carbs are typically, they can be savory or sweet. So that savory is going to be something like your potatoes, your starches. You can also have sweet, where that's going to be more of your fruit. Simple carbs can come straight from those sources. They can also, we typically tend to see these added in more of our candies, cookies, sweets. That doesn't mean that simple carbs as a whole are bad though. Ideally, you want to consume your simple carbs in a manner that has nutrients along with them. So if I'm going to have some fruit, that's a sweet, simple carb, but it's also got some nutrients in there as well. When I do consume something like candy, I'm not necessarily going to get as many nutrients from that, although it is still a simple carb. So again, doesn't necessarily mean I can't have any of that, just you want to try to think about when I am consuming those simple carbs, how many nutrients am I getting here? Simple carbs have a quick blood sugar effect. So when these hit my system, I'm going to burn them right away. I'm going to use those as energy right away. They don't last with me as long. So those will be those kind of spikes in your blood sugar that you'll get when consuming them. And these unfortunately don't stay with you as long. You might find when you eat a piece of candy or something, you're not going to be as satisfied for as long as if you eat a real full meal. A lot of times too, because of this quick spike in blood sugar, I find I'm very hungry afterwards. It's going to make you hungrier for more. On the other hand, we have complex carbs. These are going to be your whole grains. They also are your fiber sources. So adults need about 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day. Most people in our society don't even get half that each day. But fiber is what keeps you full. That's what keeps you feeling satisfied after your meals. So these complex carbs play a really important role into our diets. Typically, sources of this are going to be your whole grains, whole wheat pastas, whole grain breads, any of the sort like that. You're also going to have your beans, legumes, lentils, all of that will be those great sources of fiber as well. Diets high in fiber can also have benefits lowering cholesterol, and in general, they are going to, in general, you want to look for a food source that has a little bit more than 5 grams per serving. So that's kind of a little rule of thumb when you're looking for a high fiber food. A big point to look at on the slide, you're going to see multigrain is not the same thing as whole grain. A lot of times we don't actually know what grains they're putting in multigrain. So when you go for that whole grain, or you see the first ingredient in something as whole grain, that will be a much more quality source of complex carbs than necessarily the multigrain. You can see the sources on there though, and again, these are going to be a little bit more filling than your simple carbs. Does anybody else feel like this? Can't have a carb presentation without some carb jokes. They're full of them today. So we talked about that carb conception that we all have from the internet, from the media, from our friends, from everyone you know that doesn't eat a hamburger bun. I want you to take all of those thoughts and kind of throw them away today. But we do have to mention those diets. So your typical restrictive low carb diet that you might hear people on, this is going to be that really restrictive, no fun, no freedom type of diet. Some of these can limit percentage of carbs and say I'm only going to have, 30% of my diet is carbs. Some of them give you a specific limit of grams to have per day. A lot of times when people start counting calories, you'll start to see them saying, oh, I can't have more than this many carbs per day. This is that really restrictive type of diet. These can be effective. In some studies that they did lasting less than 6 months, people did see a benefit and they did see some weight loss effects. But we have to keep in mind, that could be some artificial weight loss, which meaning water weight, things like that. Also, you just took a large portion of your diet and stopped eating it for a couple months. So you're going to see some initial drastic results. But these same studies also showed that after that 6 months, you don't really see those benefits last around as long. Mostly, again, these are really restrictive and very hard to stick to. If I give myself no freedom, it's going to be really easy to go back to old habits, to binge, to go straight to bad sources when I'm fed up with that diet. So they're hard to stick to. And so as adherence declines, so do those benefits as well. So while they're shown in the media and everybody tells you to avoid these carbs, not as effective as you'd think. So there are 2 types of low carb diets that we'll talk to you about today. So restrictive, those are the ones we just mentioned that you hear about all the time, the no fun carb diets. We're also going to have these lower carb diets as well. That's what you're going to see a lot today with the after it. That's what we're going to add in. So what is a lower carb diet? This is a diet that's going to aim for more proteins, vegetables, and heart-healthy fats. Examples of this could be meat, fish, eggs, any of the sort like that. It could also be quinoa, some healthier grains if you are not a meat eater. You're going to aim for less added sugar and fewer simple carbs. So with that, try to decrease the amount of candies, sugar, cookies, things like that. Again, doesn't mean cut them off totally. We're just decreasing them a little bit. You can still have some fun with this diet. The biggest thing is that moderation is key. So traditional diets, again, we said the traditional ones, the low carb ones, have feelings of deprivation. They're hard to stick to and often don't lead to that desired outcome. Research has also shown that the moderate carb ones, which we're talking about right now, may improve glucose levels and decrease risk of cardiovascular disease. And again, that's not the ones where we cut off carbs completely. This is the one where we have a little bit of give and take with that. So this is a solid choice. Lower carb diets, not no carb. That's what we want to think today. So rather than these extreme diets, we want to go for that one that has a little bit more moderation, has a little bit more give and take. So key with this is you want to vary your source of carbs. It's really easy when you're watching what you eat to only eat the same few foods. But again, carbs are coming with those nutrients. So we want to have some balance where we're getting those carbs from. And also you want to spread them out throughout the day. If I have all of my carbs in the morning, that's not going to be as beneficial for me as if I spread them out throughout the day, keeping that source of energy constant as I go, keeping me fueled for my day. So there is the AMDR, is the acceptable macronutrient range distribution. And so this is going to be kind of your guideline. The graph up here is just what a typical diet is recommended to be at. So for the green section, you're looking at carbs for about 45 to 65% of your diet. Again, that's just a normal, every day, everyone recommended diet amount. For our lower carb diet, you can see on the bottom of the screen, we're only talking 40 to 45% of your diet. Those extreme restrictive ones that we were talking about earlier, those are closer to 30 and lower. So you can see this is not really, really restrictive. We're just reaching that lower, that second half of the carb range that is recommended. So 40 to 45% of your diet, and this might be beneficial for weight loss and PCOS as well. So women, what does that 40 to 45% look like? You're talking about 45 to 60 grams per meal. Men, this is going to be closer to 60 to 75 grams per meal. Why might you follow this lower carb diet? If your goals include healthful eating, just kind of being more conscious about your diet. If you are diabetic or are potentially, you have signs of prediabetes, you have PCOS, or you're just looking to lose some weight. Polycystic ovary, yep, got it. It is polycystic ovary syndrome. It has to do with women and their hormones a little bit. All right, so if you are on the diabetic end of the spectrum, lower carb diets can be very beneficial for them. These have been shown to start to reverse type 2 diabetes and dramatically increase blood glucose sugar with type 1 diabetics. If you are currently on insulin medication or you fit this category, I strongly recommend talking to your doctor, your primary care physician, before you try any new type of low carb diet. Altering that carb amount is going to alter your insulin level significantly and pretty drastically right away too. So this is definitely a conversation you want to have with your doctor before you try anything like this as well. So what are examples of the lower carb diet? A typical day kind of laid out for you. I put up some examples. Your breakfast might consist of eggs with some avocado and maybe some salsa on the side. Your lunch could look like a salad or a sandwich wrapped in lettuce instead of bread. Jimmy John's, not a plug, they're not giving me anything for this, but they have an unwich, which is a really, really good option. It looks like it won't be fun, but I really like it and prefer it actually to the sandwich bread. Dinner, it could be a roast, it could be a lentil dish, maybe zoodles with a protein source, zoodles being any sort of vegetable that you can spiralize, or even just get a vegetable grater and make into a form of noodle. You can still have your same sauce, your same dish that you would normally have with a pasta dish. We're just lowering some of those carbs that you would normally have. I put together some swaps for you too, just to kind of think about what are ways I can cut down carbs but still get that same taste of the meal I was looking for. Right here we have our spaghetti versus spaghetti squash. If you've not tried spaghetti squash, I really recommend it. It's really, really easy to make, decently cheap, and has some good flavor. So simply just switching those, you can go from 43 grams in the spaghetti to 10 grams of carbs in the spaghetti squash. Similarly with the chicken, we have breaded chicken versus grilled chicken. Simply not breading that chicken and throwing it on the grill is saving me 15 carbs there too. So again, still having that same meal, that same taste, just saving a few carbs here and there. Here are those zoodles I was mentioning. You can get a spiralizer. They have varying levels of them. Some of them are a whole big contraption where you can really do a lot with it. Others, I just have a simple handheld one. Take your zucchini or whatever you're looking for and you can put it in there and make noodles. Alternatively, again, when I didn't have one of those, I just had a vegetable peeler and I would just peel the zucchini down until you get to the seeds or whatever vegetable you're using. And again, you just have a little bit thicker strips of it, but it has the texture and consistency of noodles. Similarly, I've been playing around with vegetable fries, loving them. You can do carrots, I do sweet potatoes too. You can do zucchini, even just roasted cauliflower. You can get and you can season it to taste just like a potato would at a restaurant. My roommates who also don't love to eat as many vegetables as I do have approved. So there are a lot of different fun recipes online that you can play around with. And I've actually found a lot more vegetables that I didn't think I liked that now I really found that I liked just by throwing them in the oven and tossing some seasoning on them. Other different carb swaps you can see. White rice to quinoa. Quinoa's got a little bit more protein than that white rice. And again, it's not a white grain, it's a little bit more of a whole grain. You could sub out your sandwich bread for, again, lettuce like we talked about. You could do a different sort of wrap. Mashed potatoes to mashed cauliflower. Again, sounds like it shouldn't work, but it's really, really easy. You can get a whole head of cauliflower for like $1 and taste it has just the same consistency of it if you follow that recipe. Similarly, one of my favorite tricks is the Greek yogurt for sour cream. If you've not tried that, it'll change your life. Has the same texture, same taste, and goes really well with most of the meals you're going to use sour cream for. Has a lot more protein and a lot less fat as well. If you're looking for more of these or kind of how to attack some of these recipes, we have a lot of resources for you. The Health and Wellness Pinterest page is chock full of good both advice and tips and also some recipes. If you go and look at the Health and Wellness website as well, just Google UKHR Health and Wellness, you'll be able to see our Eatwell page, which has all of our dietitians' resources on there as well. So there's Ask the Dietitian, which you can schedule a consult we'll talk about in a second. You can go directly to our dietitians. We have videos, and then the recipe folder is where the real money is at. This up here on the right top picture is going to be an eggplant recipe that we had. And then also they had a greens meatball down here on the bottom left. Tried both of them in a cooking class we had and they were phenomenal. So again, you can see these don't look boring and only lettuce with a few tomatoes on top of a bowl trying to call it a salad. You can enjoy your food still and have a little bit more of that carb swap going on. Again, some more resources for you. On this top one, you can schedule a consult with our registered dietitian. You can talk to them about your goals. They can sit down with you, help you identify where your calorie range should be and how to start to examine your diet a little bit more. They have some great advice and they're very approachable. You can schedule that online as well. If you go to that same website, you'll be able to see the contact us link. In the middle, there's Eatwell Weight Loss Membership. Phenomenal class. It really is more of a support group as well. That's something I help out with as part of my graduate assistant duties. And we have both a lunch class, an online class, and a night class. And pretty much you go and you get tips very similar to this. We'll have recipes every other week. We'll have fun foods every other week. And it's you and a group of people talking about ways to, get over that diet hump that you're experiencing currently. If you find you're really controlled all week and then splurge on the weekends and get out of control, they have a lot of good tips for you too, and you get up and close space time with the dietitians. Finally, on the bottom, this is something that has been around for a while, but we're really revamping right now. You can actually schedule a grocery store tour with the dietitians. You can grab some coworkers if you want some friends, or even just go with the dietitians and get a group together to go on a grocery store tour where you can identify where are the traps in the grocery store, where are the good parts to hit, and even just some healthy shopping tips as well. Here are my references for today where I found a lot of that research. And the next Lunch and Learn presentation is going to be by a colleague of mine, Anssi, Saari, and he's going to be talking about re-energizing your morning routines. I heard a preview of it and it's very, very good so far. He's got a lot of good stuff. So Are there any questions? You can open up the floor to at this time.
The slide that is titled Different Carb and Fiber Options for those of you who are online. And the question was, is pita bread automatically better than sliced bread? And no. The answer is that pita bread is not automatically better than sliced bread. If it is a whole wheat pita versus a white bread, which is kind of what this is being depicted as, then it is marginally better, yes, because you are going to get that increased fiber. But just because something is a pita or something is a wrap, even if it's green, okay, does not mean that it's necessarily a better option than that sliced bread. Depends on the bread, depends on the wrap, depends on the pita. Thank you for bringing that up. And is looking again at the comparison between the white rice and the quinoa. What about the comparison between brown rice and quinoa? Brown rice and quinoa, for our purposes, are going to be almost equal nutritionally. Okay, they're going to be great sources of fiber. You're going to get a little bit of naturally occurring protein and a lot of good B vitamins that have not been stripped out of a food that's been processed like white rice has been. Okay, with any kind of whole grain, what you're getting is the intact grain, and I believe Brenna used that exact language on a previous slide. That intact grain means you're getting all three parts of the grain. You're getting that very fluffy, starchy part, which is what white rice is. Then you're getting the bran, which we all think of like bran muffins from the 80s, right? Those are automatically healthy, right? The bran is actually a part of a grain, and that's where a lot of the healthy sort of the fiber comes from in that grain. And then there's also the germ, and that's where a lot of the healthy fats. There are some naturally occurring fats in whole grains. These are the good kinds of fats that we want, the heart healthy fats. So these intact whole grains, right? That's what intact means, have all three parts of the grain, and that's what we're looking for. Now we can get into a whole thing where quinoa is actually a seed and get into like, but we're not going to do that today, okay? We're going to say that nutritionally they are similar, yes. So the question is about salad dressing, and when you look at low-fat salad dressing, the carbs are higher, and when you look at regular salad dressing, the fat is higher. So which is the better choice, right? Or any food, but salad dressing is a great example. So I'm going to speak to salad dressing specifically first, and then I think you'll see my full answer. So whenever you take out fat from salad dressing, what fat are you taking out? Oil, basically. What does that do to the salad dressing? It leaves it with a weird mouthfeel. You're like, that doesn't taste like much. Oil and fat in general is a great flavor conductor, okay? So in order to make it taste like something you want to eat again, they need to add flavor. And that's usually going to be in the form of sugar and salt. So that sugar is where the carbs are coming from. Another thing that fat does is it creates a mouth feel. It creates a texture, okay? That sort of nicely unctuous feeling, all right? If that's gone, you're left with this watery mess. So what are they going to add? Something like a modified food starch, which acts as a thickener. What is modified food starch? And a great example is cornstarch. What is that? Corn, flour, which is a carb. So that's why your carbs are going up. Now, those two carbs that I mentioned, sugar, cornstarch, are those examples of the more complex carbs? No. Are those things that we want to increase in our diet? Not really, okay? So in this case, in the salad dressing scenario, what I would counsel a client, get the real stuff and use portion control. All right, don't be dumping 2 packets of ranch on your little side salad, right? Get a packet of ranch, keep it on the side, dip your fork, have some in every bite, all right? But use that moderation, okay? Now, there's somewhere else I wanted to go with this. Foods in general, right? Yeah, you also want to look and make sure, you know, a healthy diet is a balanced diet, right? You need fat in your diet. This is where I was going with this. And even particularly with salads, but with foods in general, you need fat to absorb certain vitamins and minerals. And salad is a great example of that. It's full of vitamin K, it's full of vitamin A. Those are fat-soluble vitamins. If you don't have some fat in your diet, you're not going to get those vitamins from that salad. And while some of us are eating salads because of taste, most of us are eating it because it's good for us, right? Why is it good for us? Because of these vitamins and minerals. So that is maybe a more complex answer than you were looking for, but then what your goals are. If you are getting a lot of your calories from sugar, those are going to be calories that are not giving you nutrients, just like Brenna mentioned in the beginning of the presentation. You want to make your choices count, right? You want to make as many healthy choices as possible. Are we always going to be living this super uber healthy and therefore I am virtuous life? No. Okay. Now, if you are getting a lot of your calories from sugar, it might behoove you to switch to some artificial sweetener. It also might behoove you to explore other flavor possibilities that are out there and not just train your brain, your tongue, your taste to automatically accept sweet. But if I have a client who drinks 2 liters of Mountain Dew a day and does not see any way that that is going to change ever, then I might suggest that they switch to diet soda just to get fewer calories in there. And I would take that on a case-by-case basis. The general recommendation that comes from the World Health Organization is that we should receive no more than 10% of our daily calories from added sugars. So for you, that would be 225 calories.